Every time.
Every time. This is how we start our shows, everybody. Welcome to episode number 79 of MIrrorless Minutes. Mike is here in the state of Michigan, and we have an awesome special guest on tonight. Stephen Cunic is here from someplace dear to my heart, and Mike is fond of the area as well, too. Mike, Stephen is ringing in basically from Pennsylvania, right near Olympus headquarters is the best way I'm going to describe it. So, Stephen, hello, welcome aboard. Tell everybody where you're at, where you're from.
So, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, the historic Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, about 4 or 5 miles right from the steel stacks. A lot of culture down here, and right nestled in the valley that is the home to Olympus headquarters, North America.
Very cool.
You could feel like the hum from the mothership, can't you? Sort of.
Yeah, right.
It actually
your house.
It pulls me into it sometimes. I don't even want to go that direction. There's two roads, and it normally takes me that way. I don't know why. My house is on the opposite end.
So we've wanted to have Stephen on for a while now. Mike and I both came to meet Stephen through our trips to Pennsylvania when we do our annual summit, for Olympus. And as part of the summit, they always coordinate bringing us there for the summit around the Envision festival that they have there. And Stephen is an artist, a photographer, very active in the arts community there. And that is, again, like I said, how Mike and I came to know Stephen and become friends with Stephen. And that's kind of one of the reasons I want to have him on tonight, was to talk about, his photography and his art, and how sometimes the two, merge to become this one really cool thing, and just kind of introduce, I guess, the world to Stephen. So again, welcome aboard, Stephen. And let's just kind of jump right into this and talk about, so what is it that you do? So we know you take pictures, you're a photographer, but you're also an artist in multiple mediums. Do you want to talk a little bit about your art background, or what you like to do as far as art is concerned?
So I think the first thing that we should talk about when it comes to art, and, where everyone gets their start, is how they come about it. And to me, art comes from a place that's really worldly. And I always say that the universe kind of brought me into photography. I wasn't meant to shoot photography. I was actually talking to a former guidance counselor today about it. And I got stuck into a photo darkroom class back in high school because there was no other electives for me. And I just remember sitting in my guidance counselor, just trying to make room for a math class. And they said, well, what about art? Do you like that? I said, sure. Like, who doesn't like to draw and paint? And they're like, well, actually, those are all full, but we have a photography class. And I said, okay. She's like, do you like shooting photos? I said, I like looking at them. And I just remember her actually saying that, the one thing, though, it's not meant for freshmen. It's only meant for sophomores and above, because normally the freshmen aren't respectful enough, I guess. Like, they're a little too immature. And so
Right.
I got thrown in that classroom. The guy looks at the attendance, Mr. Thorne, I love him to death. He looks at the attendance sheet, says 9 right next to my name for 9th grade. And he said, a 9th grader? What do you mean a 9th grader? I told him I don't like freshmen. They don't do anything. And he literally just put the fear right into my eyes. And he said, you better take this seriously. And from that day on, I took it seriously. I fell in love with the darkroom process. I did that for 4 years. I was the first in my entire school to do 4 years of darkroom photography. They actually had to make classes for me. That's how much I loved it. Got published in a college level photo book during my high school career. And, just went on to pursue. I actually was supposed to go to RIT to do photography. Once again, the universe kind of spoke to me, sent me to Penn State instead, because the year that I was actually the week that I was supposed to put my letter of intent to go there, Kodak laid off like 20,000 people, and pretty much RIT was going to get rid of their film program. And I said, I'm not touching a digital camera.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I went to Penn State and became a teacher. And when I came out, I said it's a real shame that I teach these kids and tell them they can do anything in the world that they want to do, and I didn't do it for myself. So I quit the next day and I started printing with my family printing business, because it's somewhat photography based. So I took those skills as a photographer, self-taught after high school, and I took the business into a photography printing realm. And we do real complex outdoor big wall murals and things like that. So that's kind of the focus. And it allows me to dabble and learn mostly of the the things that are on the tip of the spear point right now in the printing industry, which allows me to kind of focus my photographs on that medium, which is pretty much anything that you can imagine.
Yeah, I know. It's just that's what I want to see. I want to talk about those rocks.
Yeah, good segue into that. Yeah, without a doubt.
I've written down on my list here to talk about your rocks. Do you have one to show?
So if you want, you want me to do a screen share with you, right?
Yeah.
Is that probably the best way? So I'll just take you my Facebook
just
page.
get people to understand it. Yeah, they're not pet rocks.
Here's a little shameless plug: Stephen Cunic on Facebook, or Stephen Cunic on Instagram, Twitter. I started a blog post this week, which is pretty neat. So just a lot of throwbacks. Sorry, I got to go up to the newer stuff. So I do a lot of stuff outdoors. This is something I just did mostly as a promotion for my my business. So I just started printing on rocks. I printed a rock on a rock, which I thought was funny. Here's another rock on a rock, and it's just just a little humorous. And I've been actually scattering them throughout my community, just trying to bring awareness.
Yeah, you got to put a roll. You got to put like a dinner roll on one. So
yeah, rock and roll,
man. That's like a dad joke. Sorry.
No, not that. I like it. I actually put a cell phone on one.
Yeah.
So I found a rock that's somewhat like an iPhone shape, and we left that out into the field. I don't know if anyone's found too many of them yet, but these were some of the prints that we got. And
yeah, so tell them what you're doing. How you said you're putting it out, because on the back it says like do stuff with it. Am I correct?
Yeah. So on my business page, actually I can probably switch over to that real quick. Let me look for you. I don't want to tie you too much up on that, but if you go to my business page, Signs by Tomorrow, you can actually see it. It says pretty much like, take a photo of this, hashtag we print this. So we print this, and you're supposed to just take a photo, leave it in another new spot, and just keep kind of playing like a little local game of hide and go seek. So just started rolling out on Friday, and we'll go from there. We'll see where it takes it. But pretty much I can print on anything that's flat, and I say 4 by 8 feet, and anything that's not 4 by 8 or bigger, we can kind of panel it. So here's kind of a different one that I've done before. This is actually on the Arts Quest, where we were talking about Envision earlier. I printed that and stuck it right on the wall, and I said, well, why not let's take it down to the ground too, and kids could actually pose in front of it. That was for a kind of community street art program that we did. So pretty much anything that's glass, metal, plastics, paper, rocks, bricks, you can print anything. It's all photographic quality.
Cool. That's pretty incredible. That kind of opens the door for like an infinite number of possibilities and ideas, where people can move their photos from the art that it is as a photo to something completely new and different than most people are probably used to seeing. Again, like the rocks, there's a big thing, where people are painting rocks. That's just kind of, it's big everywhere, I guess, whatever. But when I saw yours, I'm like, holy crap, like Stephen can paint, dude. And then I looked closer, because I was just kind of skimming it at work. And then I looked, really at the picture of the rocks, and I'm like, oh my God, he's printing on rocks. This is incredible. So
yeah, for sure. So
very cool.
I'm really about experiences, right? And I think that's what I admire most about both of your photographic styles, is that you both shoot in a way that actually tells a story and tells an experience. While I previously used to focus on the experience of a photograph, my new mantra is the experience of the observer. So that's kind of more the direction I'm going, which ties into these rocks. They go out and they can look for them, and they're part of the art now. So this was inspired by another process that I invented called present perspective photography, where I actually take a panel of outdoor sign material. It's aluminum with a plastic composite, and I'll print like 40 layers of just paper thin ink on top of it. And some of these prints take like 20 hours in some cases. Smaller ones like 12, 15. And I'll have like 40 to 50 layers. And by the time it's all done, you'll have about an 1/8 inch of a print, and you put it on the wall and you look at it, you can actually see shadows. I have one in my dining room right now that I wake up every morning. I have my cup of coffee, and the sun will actually rise with it. And these are all landscapes, and they're actually reminiscent of the landscapes that I'm trying to protect as a conservation photographer. So the big concept is to be able to create an experience for the observer. When they stand in front of it and move side to side, it's actually going to move with them. And what it does, it takes what we know in the history of photography from capturing past moments and brings it into that present moment of the observer and totally just removes me from it. So that's where that's at. So,
and then talk about how that also became something that was, I don't know how to phrase this properly, but something that was presented to or got people with vision disabilities involved. I mean, because it is literally a textured or three-dimensional photograph, you know. So
yeah. So, you know, once again, to my whole mantra is like, the world is really, you know, if you really believe things are going to happen, they're going to happen for you. And I know you guys feel that way too, just positive vibes out there. If you don't mind, I'll just do another screen share so people can get a good,
exactly. It's hard. It's hard to explain unless you've seen it.
So before we get too much into it real quick, the really cool thing about how it all works. So I start with a photograph. And what I do, the first series that I did with it when I started exploring it was all photographs in Yellowstone. I took my Olympus EM1 out there, shot some beautiful nature photographs, captured those photographs, brought them back home. And what I do to build up the layers is I actually will go in and digitally paint them by emphasizing certain structures more than another. Some things I'll take down, some things I'll bring up, depending on what I'm feeling while each layer is getting printed. And, you know, it takes about 20 minutes a layer, so I can go back and actually observe it printing. I watch it, you know, go up a paper thin little segment, and I'll say, okay, this is a little bit more, you know, need a little less over here, or whatever I need, and I'll fill in those gaps. So I take a photograph, I paint it digitally while it's printing, and then when it's all said and done, it turns into a sculpture. But the really most beautiful thing about the whole process is that when I take a photo of this piece, it turns back like a butterfly to a photograph, and you can't really get it. But we'll do our best here. This whole process was from Arts and Access. It was a program at Banana Factory, and we allowed people to touch it. Totally experimental. I had no clue if people could see like with their hands. Never tried it. I don't really have a lot of experience with the blind. I did teach special ed, so I kind of had some idea a little bit, but I said, you know, when Janice from Arts Quest, who was a really good mentor to me a long time ago before she passed, she is the one that actually brought this to Arts Quest. She saw my original photographs. She said, I think this will work with the visually impaired. Let's give it a go. So she opened that door for me. I said, in her honor, I'm gonna do this, and we hung the pieces up, and literally, you know, I put please touch the photographs, and literally the first person to walk through the door is a man with a seeing eye dog, and I wish I had a photo of him. No one else saw this, like no one except for maybe Stacy or Hillary, who helped put the whole project together in the aftermath. No one saw what was going on. And can you imagine, I'm standing there, I have no clue if this is going to work. I just thought like maybe it would. And the first person to walks in with an assisted dog. Wow. I've just, you know, I was flabbergasted. But if you can look at it, you'll actually see some of the textures on the figures. Right. Just a photo my friend, Jeff Bell, put on Instagram for me. Once again, you know, looking at the photograph at the top, Barren Grounds in Yellowstone, you can't really tell what's going on. You just think it's a nice landscape image, but if you actually look close where the fingers are, you can really see what's going on. And those elements will actually have their own shadows, which is really crazy about the whole process. And you know, that's what it really comes down to is I never went into the intent that this is going to be for blind people. I just thought it would be a really beautiful byproduct of it. And I really owe the whole process to my friends at Olympus. Stephanie, who you guys know from a while back, she was at one of my first art shows, and I printed on, you know, my printing equipment at my shop, which is not like just printing on paper. And she goes, there's something different about your photograph. And I said, well, yeah, it's probably just how I shoot, because, you know, I'm that good, you know, being a cocky young guy. So, no, it looks like the inks are like raised up a little bit. And I said, well, they are, you know, it's printed on the surface. And she said, well, it's more than that. It's got like a depth. I said, that's pretty peculiar. So I took what she said, and I often go out in the woods and I photograph, and I'm an outdoorsman, and I thought about that, and I said, man, what if like I just kept printing on top of it? Because I was like, this stuff can stick on anything, glass, whatever. And that's how it all I really owe it all to her to be able to bring that, you know.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was like I said, I mean, things just happen for a reason.
Yeah, I think if people, and you know, one thing, and it's not necessarily about you per se, but you live that area. And Jamie, you hit it right on the head when we started the show, or maybe you did, Stephen, about that area is so art driven, that Bethlehem area. You would never think it. You think Bethlehem steel, you think, you know, old steel mills and where everything went. But man, I'm telling you that I haven't seen areas like that out here.
No, it's unlike any place I've personally been. Yeah. It's an inspiring area to be in. You know, it's cool to see an area that was industrial in nature just do this complete 180, you know, and it's very cool place. I love going there. So.
Yeah, if any of our listeners ever get a chance, I mean, do not pass that place up.
No,
yeah,
it's cool.
You got to go see it.
By the way, I got an extra spare bedroom if you guys want to come out and hang out.
I want to go out into the woods when you go hunting. So that's something that I would like to talk about. Not necessarily, and we could talk about hunting if you want. I don't care what we talk about. It's because it can be such a polarizing topic for some people. I grew up in the Midwest, and hunting has been a part of my life since I was old enough to understand what hunting is. But aside from that, I mean, you take not only a gun to go hunt, but you take a camera into some of these places. Do you want to talk at all about what it's like to pack for a hunt, as well as, you know, you're documenting your journeys too, which is
for sure. So, you know, I've been fully engulfed in hunting since I was 6 years old. I mean, I went out with my father, and it's really just, you know, he's inspired me to just have an appreciation of the outdoors. And I think it's one of the purest forms of appreciation. And I know people say, like, well, you know, how can you really support something that you're going out and doing such a, to be honest, it's a violent thing. I'm not going to sugarcoat what the end result is, but it's never I think people that hunt know this, and it's the one side of the story that's never told, is that there's more to the end result. It's 8 hours you just spent just sitting in the woods appreciating it. Yeah, and I don't think I could have made those photographs without that appreciation for the patience of the outdoors. You know, it's no different than Ansel Adams when he was sitting on a cliff, you know, 5 o'clock in the morning, waiting for the mist to come up right at the right moment. Yep. He did the same thing. I was just exposed to it a little bit differently.
Right.
Like I said earlier, I'm a conservationist photographer. So what my mantra or my end game for what I'm doing is I just want to protect the world and its natural state of the environment from a conservationist perspective, which means you do use it. You don't just let it. It's not just a preserve.
Right.
And that's, and, you know, in my opinion, just what I've experienced. And, the hunting culture is more land has been protected in the continental United States and the world from hunting.
Right. Exactly.
Than anything else. I mean, look at all this stuff. Like Yellowstone wouldn't be there without our presidents that hunted and protected it. Like that's pretty big. And it's nice that people that don't hunt can experience it too.
Right.
And you know, realistically, part of it also is the fact that I'm organic in what I do by eating the meat. And that's, I mean, I cook all my own meals. I don't go out to dinner. I grow my own vegetables in my backyard. Even though I'm in the city, I travel and I go and do this, but I bring it back to the city because I'm living like kind of a between the grid kind of life.
Right.
I got a 40 foot yard garden in the back of like downtown Bethlehem.
Nice.
Here. It's crazy. But I mean, it's just a way to complement what we do living in our society. So I don't have to be a contributor of the waste. I mean, because even when you go to the store and you go and you get fruits or vegetables, you're getting plastics. You're doing all this stuff that's kind of, in my opinion, not good for the environment.
Yep. And
it's just a tradition that's passed down. In regards to the whole like packing and going down that whole road, You guys know, like, I don't come from the Olympus realm. I'll be perfectly honest. I started with a Canon film. I mean, people start with what their parents have, right?
Oh,
So
of course.
that's how it works.
Yeah.
And I'm a convert, like through and through, like just like switched gear within a heartbeat, because I was that long arm guy, but like not the long arm that Olympus had that funny commercial about. I was the guy that was 4 foot shorter because I was climbing up a mountain. I had like 40 pounds on my pack, you know, like that's a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And I mean, not to mention there's a lot of weight, but some of the places like I've gone to, like Alaska or out west, you're taking small bush planes, and you're landing either on the side of a mountain or you're landing on water, and it's not just the regular travel restrictions that you have total
weight
extremely
restrictions. Oh yeah.
Ounces, absolutely. And it has to be positioned right in the plane and all this thing, and then you have to carry it in. So going to these cameras, you know, the ruggedness of them and the light flexibility that they have is just like just a perfect combination for that kind of lifestyle. So total minimalist. I'll use my feet before I use a lens to get into front of some things. And from my hunting background, I treat every photograph as the one shot. So I don't waste, you can't waste batteries. You can't waste cards. You can't, like, you taking 50 photos in a row, which is awesome. That new camera, by the way, that's pretty awesome on that. But the fact that you do that, eventually, when you're off the grid, you just run out of batteries.
Right.
You can't afford it. You turn your camera off, you know. And so when I go out, I pack things that are going to help me get through the trip, not necessarily what I need for the trip, you know. So very minimalist things. I make my tripod sometimes out of stacking rocks on top of each other, because you have to. I mean, it's just what it is.
I think it's kind of interesting to hear you talk about. It's funny. There's an analogy made constantly that, you know, well, it's digital now, you know, it's unlimited photos, you know, the cards are endless, you know, and yet here you're still, you know, cognizant of how much you're shooting. And it's not because there's, you know, a capacity limit per se, but it's an energy limit, because you can't be packing in big solar panels to charge everything. You know, you're probably bringing, I'm guessing, you know, a limited number of batteries based on weight, and you need to make those last. So it's cool that, that you almost revert back to your film days as a way to keep control of, you know, the electrical, I guess, limitations of packing out there into the wilderness to shoot.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you really, at the end of the day, is you have to hold true to who you are as a person. And I go back to my roots. Like, give you guys a little tip out there. Like, when I shoot, a lot of people do this where they close their eye. Well, I don't close my eye when I shoot, because if I'm, like, let's say I photograph a lot of bears just for fun. It's not really like my art thing. It's just a fun thing. And when you're photographing a bear, you never know when something else can come out the side. And I'm not saying you're going to get attacked, but I'm just saying, like, maybe a deer comes, or I mean, I've photographed deer and then a bear shows up. So it's just good to keep both eyes open if you can. Plus, when you close your one eye, it actually will put some strain on this. So it's like something that I learned from, you know, hunting and competitive shooting and things like that. It's all about being who you are and photographing true to what you do. And I photograph like I'm in that dark room in Mr. Thorne's, like, 9th grade. I mean, we only had 24 shots. Like, what? Like, and most of them were junk. Like, I mean, you learn pretty quick not to waste anything. And, you know, it's just mantra. You know, I think it's actually good practice for most photographers to not even put the camera up, just frame it out your mind and then go for it. You know?
Yeah. Hearing you say, you know, that, you know, stay true to yourself and, you know, who you are from, you know, your roots and, you know, your formal history with, or past history with film photography. And then also, I mean, because you're an outdoors person, you know, you said it yourself, you're a conservation photographer. So it's cool to see. Do you have any of the outdoor images that you could do a screen share of so people can see what you've experienced out there?
By the way, I love this screen share.
It's nice, isn't it?
Oh, so yeah. What really got me into the whole conservation thing, if you look at this picture right here, I was sent over to the Philippines in 2013 to photograph the typhoon that hit Yolanda and the state's Haiyan over there. It was part of this documentary, 6 Hours. Love Rudy for giving me the opportunity to take a risk and go over there. Like 5,000, 6,000 people died from it, and that's another circumstance that because I was based in a survival, kind of role from hunting and my outdoors experience, it gave me the opportunity to know what I was getting into before that. Another selfless plug, if you are on Medium now, I just started my blog, The Philosophy of Photography. So there's no technical advice, it's all just why you shoot. So this really favorable article is about what I learned from seeing a bunch of people in a really hard circumstance, which is all about being true to yourself and going from there. So it's the mantra. I mean, if you're going out and photographing, you got to be you. If you like shooting models, shoot models. If you like shooting animals and things like that, go and photograph them. Just you do you and focus on that and stay true to it. This is one of the trips I did to Alaska. That was my house for a couple weeks. This is actually on top of a hill, and then you can see a hill on top of that.
Yeah,
see my horses in the background. Just a little self-portrait I did.
Now you're hunting too, obviously there, right?
Yeah, correct. So we were looking for doll sheep, which this is the top of the mountain I just pointed out. A thunderstorm rolled in, and that was my one friend who was at the top of it and just fading into what looks like mist, but it was actually the electrical clouds, and you could feel the electric. It was just wild.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, but right here, case in point, like things that were in my backpack, extra clothes, rain gear, little thing that I always tell people they should always carry in your camera bag, and it's not pleasant, but I learned this later in life, Imodium. Like if you're doing a job, if you're in the middle of the woods, I know, Jamie, I get it. I see a smile over there.
Yeah.
But seriously, you never know. You just get sick. You have bad water. You can't control that, especially if you're trying to do this as a business, right? The last thing that you want to do is be shooting someone's wedding, like someone's actual wedding, and then you can't be there for something or you embarrass yourself. when it's coming. So a little side note anyway. So on top of the woods, it's a lifesaver for me, plus just the overall health. If you are in remote areas, it's good to have. This is one of my pack horses. So these horses were awesome. I was very lucky. I got my sheep fairly early, and I was able to just bask in the sun with these horses all day. And while I was waiting for my father, because like I said before, it's all about him and myself and just our bonding experience. And that's really what it comes down to is our heritage. And while he was out hunting, I would just play with these horses all day, just watch them. And this one was just jumping and playing like in a spring field, and just the light that caught off him. Oh, just absolutely beautiful, Wow. And like I said, lots of bears. I go up to the Poconos, which is not too far from here.
No, not far at all.
Photograph some wolves. That's a crazy wolf shot. If you really want to go through them, I say take some time and go through them. But this isn't about me, right? This is about the audience. And
yeah. I'm looking at your photos. What are those, brook trout or something?
I did an underwater photo shoot for Trout Unlimited.
Okay.
So got an underwater housing camera and just did some nice natural catch and release. Once again, conservation. People, it's the craziest thing to me. People don't even know how much fishing and hunting is done for just the natural.
For actual.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I said it was a polarizing topic, but it's only polarizing, I think, because the people that are opposed to hunting or any kind of sport, that involves the taking of an animal, I don't think they really research and realize just how much it's actually preserving the herds out there, or the fish. The money that is spent or that is the revenue that's generated from people buying fishing licenses going to restocking programs and education programs and habitat, conservation. I could drone on and on about it. I know you could too, but
I know.
But I think people should, look at the work that you do, and they can just kind of I think you can kind of get a sense of of, why it's important to invest in the environment, through hunting and through fishing licenses and things of that nature.
And we do it too as photographers too. Don't void the fact that every time that you go to a national park or a state park and you pay for a day pass to go in there, you're helping the whole process. So, I mean, I'm not saying everyone should go out and pick up a rifle and go and harvest an animal or anything like that, or pick up a rod. Do what you love and what you're passionate about. I mean, I do it all. I fish, I hunt, but I take my camera with me because I go back to my roots of 24 shots or less. And if I don't see something that I love, the camera's staying in the backpack and I'm going to take another cast. That's just what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But we as photographers are the next phase of that conservation of protecting our lands. And I think it's important to just not that's the one thing I can say about my work is with what I do is my landscapes are all based off of what some people would call the mundane areas, the places that you literally would pass on your way to the Half Dome or to the geysers or the hot springs. I literally will sit there in a field on the edge of a woods, and I'll take a photograph and make it monumentous for what it really is, because those are the places that are more important than the Half Dome. I mean, that's the areas that are sustaining wildlife, deer, flowers, wildflowers, wild grasses, the little insect. I mean, everything. And that's what I really want you to get from what I'm doing, is that you should be able to imagine just a deer walking through the meadow or the crickets, like whatever's important to you, not what's important to me. And I think you really do get a good sense of it. So
where's the last place you went to, Stephen? I mean, like last adventure you took?
Ooh,
well, Alaska or
no? So I went up to Maine back in fall. My dad got drawn for a moose tag. That was a crazy story. He was one of the first non-residents to get drawn 32 years ago, and he actually he was like one of the few people that didn't get a license, and he's been putting in for 32 years after that. And here's a good testament to my father, and I love him so much. I'm named after him, and just a really good testament of how awesome a person who's always put himself before me and my family, or I'm sorry, put us before him. Sorry, the opposite. He got drawn last year, and he allowed me to harvest his moose for him.
Wow.
Oh,
so, I mean, like, it was supposed to be like
32 years.
Yeah, his redemption hunt, and we go out there and he lets me harvest it. I mean, that's just that's my dad.
Wow.
He always put me before him, which is just a really, really beautiful thing. And I owe him the world for it. So, Dad, thanks, appreciate it. So that was the last adventure. The one before that was Idaho, where I did Yellowstone. 2 weeks I'm going to Alberta.
Oh, are you?
Okay. Yeah. So in 2 weeks I leave for Alberta, and then I'll be kind of on horseback once again in the mountain range, high plains, and then we're going to go in the mountains too. So that'll be a couple week trip.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's kind of getting into the colder months. Definitely for that trip. That'll be definitely an adventure.
Well, I know you know about cold with those snow owls, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's not quite the same thing. I have the luxury of my car to get into, and
warm home
at night. Yeah, I'm not roughing it in a tent.
Just appreciate it. It doesn't really matter. Just appreciate it. And I mean, but you got to do, like, once again, like, you have to do you, and all the people out there listening too, like, just do you. You can't force your perspective with photography. Like, you can't, like if that shot isn't there and like you're looking up through the leaves and it's just not there, don't take the photo. Like, don't waste your time, and you have the self-confidence to be able to know that it's not the right one, right?
I think what you said earlier, you were singing a song that is playing in my heart all the time. And that is, there's an adventure in your backyard. You just have to open yourself up to it. You don't have to. I mean, granted, it is great to visit a national park somewhere, head out west into the Badlands or into the Wasatch Mountains, whatever. There's all that out there, but there is still incredible beauty to be found literally like in your yard or down the street or on the side of the road during your commute to work or whatever. So absolutely, I can sympathize with exactly what you were saying earlier. Take advantage of the nature that you do have around you, because there's plenty of it there.
Yeah, and don't get over romantic with the trips that I take. These are like a very small fraction of the whole experience, right?
Yeah.
Like let's be honest. I mean, I think someone who's really impressing me recently, Chris McGinnis from Olympus.
Mm-hmm.
One of
macro work.
Oh my gosh, he's the beautiful photos that he's taking of just like these little tiny insects.
Yeah,
in
and
the
he's
office. Like,
he's not going to Costa Rica to do this. He's right there, you know, in an urban or suburban setting, you know, and capturing stunning images. So
absolutely. But that's the power of this equipment, is that it gives you the ability to either travel to the farthest reaches or even just be you in your own neighborhood and capture something. Absolutely. But what he's doing, like, you have to do, like, I can't overemphasize that enough. You just have to do you, and don't be over romantic by the places that you think are monumentous, because you look at your feet. I mean, look at your feet, like, just look at your feet and see what's really there.
All right, cool. Well, you know what? I think we've like hit the end of our show mark here. What I'm going to do though, for everybody that is going to want to follow up on this, I'll put links to your Facebook. I'll put both your Facebook page and your business page, if that's all right with you, Stephen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. I'll put those in the show description below. Beautiful. And they'll also show up in the description on the audio version of the podcast when it comes out tomorrow. So everybody follow along on Stephen's adventures, local and abroad, because they're definitely something to be watching.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming on tonight, dude. It was totally cool.
It was awesome to see you again. Yeah, it's different. It's different seeing you out at the banana factory there.
Yeah, We're used to seeing Stephen like in the Arts Quest building or you know, somewhere similar to that, the banana factory. So
absolutely.
Again, until we all see each other again in person, take care. And don't forget, everybody, on the next episode, we're giving away a year of the Creative Cloud from Adobe. Our friends at Adobe gave us a year to give away. So if you want to enter and you haven't entered, it's easy. All you need to do is share any kind of art with us. It could be video, it could be audio, I don't care, a photo, anything, a hybrid of everything. And just use the hashtag MIrrorlessCC. And during this upcoming week, Mike and I are going to whittle it down to a handful of them. And then we're going to debate back and forth on which one is going to get it. And then we're going to draw it. So somebody's going to get a year of Adobe Creative Cloud.
Yeah, make sure you're there.
All right. So with that said, we'll wrap it up tonight and talk to everybody later.
All right. See you guys later.